VPN at technophilespodcast.com. I'm David Geisler, and this is the Technophiles Podcast.
This could be a huge collapse on the economy if all of a sudden however many truck drivers don't have a job. I mean, even if it happens over 5 or 10 years, if we don't have replacement positions for these hundreds of thousands of people.
On this episode, the cast begins the second half of Season 8 by returning from their summer break to discuss the future of the autonomous truck industry. Drivers? Where we're going, we don't need drivers. Because this is the Technophiles 304th episode. Hello, everybody. Welcome to tonight's show. I am here with the regular cast, Vee Laabs, who I think I surprised a little bit just now.
I didn't know we were going to be jumping into it so quick.
Jumping right
I was
back
surprised
in.
by it. Blowing the dust off this thing.
Almost literally, because we'll talk about that in just a second. I'm also here with Krista-Lee Malone. Krista-Lee, how are you doing?
Good.
Looks like your mic might be a little loose there all of a sudden, out of nowhere.
Yeah, all of a sudden, out of nowhere. I will have this fixed within 2 seconds.
Okay, sounds good. Jake Gill is also here. Jake, how are you? Way over there on the other end of the table.
I'm doing well, David.
So we
Glad
are
to be
in...
back.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I said glad to be back.
Yeah, I'm happy too. So we're back from our mid-season break. We're back for the second half of Season 8 right now, and we got a little bit of a surprise. Technophiles, the show, got a little bit of a surprise while we were on our break, and we had an opportunity to move into a new studio. And we are in that new studio right now. However, it is currently under construction. It's like halfway there right now.
Yeah.
We have drywall up and we have studs that are exposed.
It's like the most obtuse version of Tetris right now.
So it's very exciting to be here. It's a bigger space. It's going to let us have a bigger area to shoot when we make our YouTube videos and everything. But tonight we're going to, I think this will just be an audio only episode. Does that sound okay, everybody?
Yeah, that's cool.
I mean, maybe I'll still put this on YouTube, but I'll just put a logo there or something,
Yeah.
just so people can still share it. Mm-hmm. But all of our iTunes and Stitcher listeners, they won't even know the difference. But I'm really excited with this new studio because it's going to give us an opportunity to share assets now in the show. I don't even know if I've spoken to Krista-Lee and Jake about this, but I was talking to Vee about it a little bit on the pre-show. We're going to have a monitor behind you guys. There's going to be a monitor over here behind me. We're going to be able to share assets to them wirelessly, just like we do for our live shows. So I think that's going to be really cool because we talk about a lot of stuff. But this is also an exciting time for me because we're going to be trying a somewhat of a new format here going forward with this show. And Jake, you and I have spoken about it. We've all talked about it a lot. But if I may, I'm going to throw it over at you. Could you explain to our listeners a little bit how we're going to be doing things just slightly differently going forward here with the show?
Yeah, so I think last first half of Season 8 here, we just realized that a lot of these topics and a lot of things that we cover on Technophiles, we need some background information, or there are things that we've been following up on for a while, or we're trying to set the tone. And when we do that with 3 news stories a night, it gets a little confusing. It's kind of not even confusing, but we as kind of cast members, I think, get a little like, oh my gosh, I wish I could have been better prepared, or there's so much that I wanted to say, and we have to either like cut ourselves off because we're just, we don't want to ramble forever.
Right.
Yeah.
And so what we decided to do instead was set the tone and do 3 kind of smaller news stories.
We're just going to hit 3 quick news stories, 5 minutes on each, really just talk about them existing. And then
why are they interesting? Why you should maybe check them out, or do some additional research. We'll have links, I think, in the show notes and whatnot. That'll be the same. And then after that, we'll go into a main topic. And the main topic will be... each of the co-hosts will be running a main topic per week, and we're going to go, this is to go deeper in. It's to get more information, to set the tone, to really kind of, add a lot of additional information to whatever we're talking about.
Absolutely. Just 4 episodes ago, actually 3 episodes ago, depending on your math, we had our 300th episode ever. We've been doing the show for many years, and when the show started, it was kind of more like a little bit like what we're going to be doing just in our first parts here of this show. It was a couple of us finding some things in the news and just saying, hey, this is cool. Don't you like it? Do you not like it? Do you like it? And that was about it. Well, what's happened is with this cast and with the show and having the show go for years and years and years, we're finding larger arcs with companies that we're talking about, or products or inventions that are happening. Mm-hmm. And I think the real nail in the coffin, as you could say, or whatever, the real point of realization was somewhere around episode 298 or something, Jake. We had a topic about, it might have been, I don't remember, it might have been episode 302 now that I think about it. We were talking about like BMW batteries and like the Nissan Leaf. It was the three of us, I think, for that episode. And all of us realized, you know, we started talking about Tesla and just
Right,
batteries
you
in
could
general.
because you couldn't
And,
not.
like-
You had to.
Right.
Yeah, and linking
You
it to
had
like
to add those additional bits of
And
information.
we realized that it was a conversation, not
Yeah.
just like a news point. And that was a real moment for us to be like, okay, well, let's restructure the show a little bit so that we can have these conversations about certain things that are happening. So we will still have some news in the beginning. I'm super excited about that, whatever's happening that week. And like Jake pointed out, each week a different cast member will bring whatever main topic it is that we'll be talking about. I have a topic tonight. I think Jake's scheduled for next week, and I think it's Vee after that for 306, and I think 307 is Krista-Lee, and then the whole cycle starts all over again. And so it's going to be really great because it gives each of us almost a month, really, to kind of like process some information. Like I've got a story here about autonomous trucks, and I'm really excited. We'll get to that after our first break here. But I had a great time researching it, not just finding a story or two, but like going back, I found some stuff about the history of autonomous cars and things that I have thoughts about what it might mean for the future. And so I cannot wait to have that discussion after our break. But guys, how about we waste no more time? There's a lot of, I want to spend the next 20 minutes talking about intros, asking everybody how their break was and things like that. But why don't we mix that with our news stories just a little bit here? So all three of you, Vee, Krista-Lee, and Jake, have just quick things that you found this week that have caught your attention. And Vee, why don't we start with you? First of all, how was your summer break, really?
Yeah, it was pretty good. Traveled around, went to Chicago, saw C2E2 this year.
Cool.
Yeah, just for a day, saw some at the Mega 64 guys there. Shook hands with Mick Foley, which was pretty wild.
Cool. I think I saw a photo of that.
Yeah, he was real nice. Although he was like, he had a little bit of a con flu or whatever going on there. But
got it.
yeah, I know. You know how that is.
The old C2E2 cold.
Yeah, I know. You go there and like, there's a bunch of people there, and there's just as many like
There's a lot
bacteria.
of people, not a lot of windows.
Not a lot of windows, not a lot of hand sanitizer.
But it's a cool event.
But it's a great event, and everybody should check it out. It was pretty rad. Gosh, what else? I don't know.
Well, if I may, I'm kind of excited because, I've been putting together some of these notes about autonomous trucks for the past week or so, and I haven't seen the stories that I have not yet seen the stories that you guys have brought. Krista-Lee was able to throw one in there last night. Yeah. So, Vee, I don't even know what you're talking about yet. So what did you find? You're right here with, what are you? You are the edible batteries?
Edible batteries.
What is going on here?
So at the, it was the 252nd National Meeting and Exposition of the American Chemical Society, which is, I guess, where a bunch of chemists hang out and they talk about what they've been working on for the past year or so. A group came forward and said that they found a way to make a battery that could go inside of electronic devices that you would swallow. So to treat or diagnose conditions or diseases or something, anything going on in your body.
Yeah.
And that's a little ways off. Right now, the closest thing we have to that is like somebody swallowed a camera to kind of figure out what was going on in their digestive tract. But, those things have to be small and they can't be too toxic for your body. And batteries
generally have to be passable.
And they have to be passable.
I've seen that camera. I think we did an episode on it,
kidding.
Honestly, before you guys were on the show.
Yeah.
And it was 3 times the size of a Tylenol gel cap or a Advil, whatever.
Yeah.
It was small enough, let's just put it that way.
Sure.
That was about 20 years ago, evidently. Is like as a complementary tool to endoscopies. Endoscopies. Okay.
I imagine. I don't know. I haven't seen the word.
Yeah. It's like an endoscope. It's a thing you do with an endoscope.
Right.
Okay. So to make it less toxic, to make it more, less invasive or exvasive, I guess.
Sure.
They made these batteries out of
I can't help but wonder what makes it ingestible. Is it just smaller, or is it literally the chemicals and the materials?
Biodegradable, and it's made of melanin. And melanin,
say it's probably organic.
Yes. Yep. It's made of melanin, which is what your nails and your hair and like your skin pigment, what makes your skin pigment. And that can absorb energy. And so the idea is that it would like release it, or like the device would use that as its energy source. And so when the device was done being used, if it was made out of, digestible, biodegradable material,
right,
it could just be gone in your body after it's done doing its job, along with the battery.
Yeah, I mean, fine.
Yeah. So you
That's
don't
cool.
have to worry about the post.
So we'll put these links. We'll have and all of that is
Yeah. Just worry
all
about
that
the
comes with
results.
that. Just the results.
Yeah.
So this was a story that you found on Eureka Alert.
Eureka Alert.
EurekaAlert.
Yeah.
.org,
Mhm.
and it was written by who's it written by here? I just want to make sure because we'll put the link in our show notes and stuff.
This is just a release from
Oh, yes, I see that.
the American Chemical Society. So
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool find.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Krista-Lee, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Now, you and I, we've been bumping into each other a little bit because we've been having business meetings the past couple weeks. So I kind of know how your summer's been. So we're going to skip right over that. I'm joking. So how has your break been? You went on that vacation right at the end of our last break.
I did, and it was kind of interesting. I went down there to visit family, family and friends, and just very randomly found out that both Phoenix, Arizona, and Albuquerque, New Mexico, apparently have some thriving geek communities down there.
Okay.
I don't know a whole lot. Like, I was only down there for a few days, but I found a couple of cosplay stores, a place selling like rockabilly wear, and a few other places. And even going into some of the thrift stores, there were like a lot of steampunk pieces, and they were obviously
Cool.
steampunk, right?
Yeah,
It's not like I saw something and was
was like
reimagining
kind of-
it. It was
yeah.
like the hat with the gears and everything
Oh
all
my
on
gosh.
it. And so, like I said, I don't know a whole lot, but it stands to reason if there's this many shops that are staying in business,
Yeah.
there's got to be how many people that are, keeping them in business. So, I went from, hey, I'm just, visiting like my uncle and my grandma to I got to go back.
Yeah.
Like, wow. And of course, that means I also spent way more money than I budgeted for this
Oh, dear.
vacation.
Oh, what'd you get?
I got 3 entirely new cosplay outfits. I have a full steampunk outfit right now.
Oh my gosh.
Like boots, shirt, skirt,
Hat.
jewelry,
Ooh.
everything. I also have a Vampire the Masquerade costume now.
Oh.
And then I also got oh my god, what was the third one? I got a third one. I can't remember right now, like I'm blanking, but I bought 3 full costumes.
That's
and it was,
impressive.
yeah. It was, like, I couldn't believe it.
That's great.
Wow.
So I actually saw your story because you've got so we're also, like I said earlier, when we do, I'm very excited to be in this new studio. I think we're gonna have a lot of opportunities, but we don't have all of our equipment set up yet. But when we do, we're gonna have an opportunity to have assets and photos, like I said earlier. And Krista-Lee was very responsible and actually got me some photos of her next story last night. She
And like
threw
a
it in
really
the Google
cute
Drive.
one too.
It's adorable. I wish we could be sharing it right now. In the future, this will be one of those moments where everyone oohs and ahs. But you have a story that you found. Well, you found an article in the New York Times, NewYorkTimes.com, about the Octobot.
Yeah. So basically,
I cannot show the picture.
I know, which is really
But
too
here,
bad.
you guys look and it'll tease our audience. They'll be like, why? It's unfair.
Right. And that's not even like the super
That's-
cute one from the assets where it's
Right.
in the dark and it's glow in the dark. Anyways, maybe during break. Yeah. So basically, this is a soft robot. It is an octopus. They made it with the idea of having it move like an octopus. It doesn't actually do a whole lot right now. This
Right.
was just a idea of like, can we do this? Can we get it to move? Can we get it to work?
Mhm.
So there is a video as a part of the article on New York Times,
Mhm.
and
By the way, just quick show note here. We can show videos and stuff too when we go forward. We'll just have to, anyway.
yeah, but like if you do, I can describe it real quick. So like I said, it doesn't do much, right? So like the video, it shows it like a hand kind of coming up, or a hand
It does
tentacle.
literally look like an octopus.
Yes, it literally looks like an
Yeah.
octopus. So, like you see like these tentacles coming up and down, and it kind of was doing this little dance thing. And yeah, there's no I was about to say exoskeleton, but there's none of that either. But there's no hard parts inside either.
Then how does
Right.
it move?
With hydrogen peroxide,
What?
they use a chemical reaction, and they have this soft circuit board that what it does is if this tentacle over here needs to move, it pushes some hydrogen peroxide over there, and then, there's some chemistry magic.
Yeah.
It has a chemical reaction, and then that causes the movement there.
Whoa.
So by pushing the hydrogen peroxide around, that's how they get it to move.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's cool.
Wow. I guess that replaces like valves and wires and oh man.
Yeah, it actually
that's really creative.
Right? And I was actually, obviously, like I said, this is just kind of to see if it would work, and it is super cute, but just real quick, I was thinking, this might have some medical uses perhaps, because certain things on your body, like even if we can replace it with some kind of hard machine, you don't necessarily want them hard.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
They're, I don't know, maybe an organ or something, or even like if you have like a partial arm, limb, whatever replacement.
The first thing that I think about is, miniaturizing it and having a soft robot go inside a body and stuff could do potentially a lot of good.
Yeah.
Hydrogen peroxide thing's a little freaky, but
yeah.
Only for my scenario of a miniature
right. Of ingesting it.
Right, yeah.
But now that they have the idea, they could play around with what they're using inside also, and that could be a thing.
Yeah, cool. That's awesome. So this was an article put together by Nicholas St. Fleur, it looks like, and we'll have the link to it in our show notes at technophilespodcast.com. Jake Gill.
Yo.
We have kind of a new desk arrangement at this studio, too. I think it's nice because when we have the camera, you'll be facing the camera, but you're a little further away from me now. I feel like...
I know. I feel like I just can't co-host.
You're way over there.
As much anymore.
If we were to stretch our hands out, we still wouldn't be able to touch each other.
I know, it's very sad.
A moment missed.
Watch over the weeks. He just further and further away until he's like in the corner of the room.
Phasing me out, guys.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Crap.
The whole reason we did this is so that when we do have the camera, people will be able to see your beautiful face, not your terrible profile. No, I'm joking. Oh my gosh, I'm joking.
You're like that Jake guy, but man, his profile. Ugh.
Seriously. His posture, too.
Yikes.
So Jake, how was your summer?
It was a blur.
You did a lot, I think, because we kind of stayed in touch a little bit.
Feel like I did a lot, yeah. Lots of traveling, lots of weddings. Had a great time, actually. Went to like a really nice business retreat for Skritter in California, and much was discussed, and we're working hard, and school's coming back, so my summers actually are quite busy.
Yeah.
But I actually did just get back from a kind of like nice cap of everything. My wife was presenting at a conference in Aspen, and so we were out there.
That's what brought the trip on.
Yeah.
I see.
So we decided to go out there, and I decided to tag along and do the work from the mountains, and it was fun.
Yeah, that's great. And I think I overheard, and this kind of leads into our topic after the break here. I think you guys were driving a car with some lane assist or at least some variable.
Yeah, so we actually just got a 2016 Subaru Crosstrek, the limited. So it has eyesight navigation built in, which is basically two cameras that are mounted, and it does like variable cruise control and lane assistance, and yeah. No, we'll get into it later.
Yeah, sure, that's cool.
But I have lots of kind of thoughts, and I might be a little bit out of it. Listeners, I was like, I did a 19-hour car ride.
19-hour car drive, and then you had a few hours to recover, and now you're here.
And work, and yeah.
Yep, that's perfectly fine.
Perfectly
fine. So
I did also bring a story. I realized
you have a story, and he sent me a note on Slack today that said something about that your story today is going to kind of tease your main topic next week.
Yeah, stay tuned next week, guys. 'Cause we're going to dig
305.
No, so actually, yeah, my story, it might actually be, hopefully a lot of the listeners already know this. Because it was a release from NASA actually on the 16th of August. So we're about 2 weeks out from then. But basically they have released and unveiled a public web portal, which is called PubSpace. Really
fair enough.
Cute name. But basically this has been something that's been kind of in the works since 2013, when the White House had requested, like the science advisors there had said, hey, we fund NASA. We want to make the public, we want the research that you guys are doing to be more accessible. And obviously not all agencies can be so disclosing.
Yeah.
But NASA, I think, they were super happy to do this. And so, yeah, open access. Basically within 1 year of any research publications, they should be available on this pub space online for people to read and download and interact with. And they're hoping that this kind of just engages people and helps figure out what's going on with NASA and what kind of innovations are happening. Which, for someone who's obsessed with space like I am, I'm like really excited about it.
Yeah, cool.
But really, yeah, and so I mean, there's not much to say there. It was a press release. I think it's very exciting. What I want to talk about next week, actually, and what our main topic will be, is kind of about like open source or community research projects or APIs, things like that. Just how we as a civilization are kind of connecting in new ways to help things, or even companies kind of being, like Tesla comes to mind with some of their stuff where they're like, our patent is out there for everyone to use.
Right.
So I want to get into that next week. And this is kind of, this article is what sparked it. And I'm really excited to go in and actually read some of the research that's happening with NASA and the, things that are going on in the ISS and whatnot. And so it kind of triggered this thought of like, wow, what's going to come out of this? Right. You're going to have a lot of smart, very geeky people that are reading this stuff, and they might have some crazy ideas. And so it's really exciting.
I was looking at your show notes for next week, and I think you have like 5 different examples of companies doing massive things like this where they're opening things up.
And I hope that I'll have even more. So I still got a week or so to put it all together.
That'll be great. Episode 305. So, of course, this is something you found just on nasa.gov here. We'll also include it in our show notes at technophilespodcast.com.
Yep.
And on our new website, by the way. Forgot to add in that's what I did on my summer break, and was make us a new website, and I'm pretty pleased with it. It's a little funky on some smaller phones. Like I have a 5S right now for some reason. I have an old phone right now, and it gets a little funky on a small screen, but it does fine on pads and tablets and computers.
So funny because a few years ago that screen was perfectly normally sized.
Well, of the 5S, that's the one where that was the first time they made a bigger screen. Remember, it got taller.
And everyone made fun of it.
They freaked out that it was so huge. And look at it. It really feels tiny.
So small.
When I look at it right
now.
now.
It's like the dinkiest thing ever.
Oh my gosh.
It's strange.
What is that, like one word per...
So, all joking aside, on our website, there are times where words carry over. Like sometimes Technophiles doesn't render right. So I have to put in extra code where it's like, if it's under 400 pixels, then make the font suck, or make smaller font.
David, have you heard of Squarespace? Or just kidding, sorry.
Squarespace is great, but I have a lot of fun coding our site.
I'm totally joking.
Okay. It's my little sandbox. Anyway, guys, let's go to break here. We're going to come back talk all about. Let me try that again. Anyway, guys, let's go to break here, and we'll come back to talk about. I'm still not nailing it, but it's fine.
No, you can do it.
We'll be back to discuss autonomous trucks because I am a huge fan of self-driving cars and autonomy in general when it comes to robotics and things like that. And I found a couple articles. There was a news event that happened, which I'll talk about after the break here. But it spurred my curiosity, and I started learning some things about the semi-truck industry that I didn't know about, and I'd like to share that. We'll do that after the break. Sound good?
Cool.
I'll see you guys after a couple words from probably us. Saying stuff about Patreon and saying stuff about other episodes, and that's fine with me. I'll see you guys in 30 seconds or so. Yeah. Hey everybody, how's it going? David Geisler here, host of the Technophiles podcast, and I just wanted to take a few seconds to tell you about our new Patreon page. We're very excited about it. Of course, it's patreon.com/technophiles. We have a lot of different options. If you just want to give us $1 a month just to be awesome, or $2 or $5, we have a lot of different opportunities for people to contribute to the show. In fact, we have some things about people suggesting topics or people actually writing into us, maybe doing some Google Hangouts. We've got a lot of cool stuff happening over there in our rewards section on our Patreon page, patreon.com/technophiles. We absolutely love our audience. It's really exciting every day to see people tuning in all over the globe to listen to the show. And if any are inclined to kind of become part of the team here and give us some support, we would be really humbled. It'd be really exciting. So I don't want to take any longer. I just wanted to tell you about it. We're very excited. And you can also find a little bit more information about it on our website, technophilespodcast.com. Thank you very much. Let's get back to the show. From TPN at technophilespodcast.com, I'm David Geisler, and this is the Technophiles Podcast. All right, we are back from our break, And I'm happy to be here with Vee Laabs, Krista-Lee Malone, and Jake Gill. Guys, this is all going to be just one episode, too. Remember how we used to split them up into 3 different videos and stuff like that?
Yeah.
We're going all the way through, and that's going to be fine with me. They're going to be big, meaty YouTube files once we start doing our videos, but take all night to upload. It will be fine.
Yeah.
We say don't charge internet based on upload.
I know. Hey, remember back in the dial-up days when I remember being in middle school, so like maybe 7th grade, and you would get charged by your data, like how much data you ran.
Sounds like a cell phone plan.
Oh,
I know. Well, back then the internet,
Stupid.
The internet was kind of like that back then. It was way before high speed existed and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't know, the first internet I had was a T1 line.
Shut up. Well, then you must have gotten it really late.
I did.
So anyway, we used to have an egg timer so that we would know that we wouldn't go over budget.
Whoa.
So when the egg timer, we'd flip the egg timer, and when it was done, you knew you'd had like, that was $5 of internet or something.
No way.
Oh, that sounds
So my dad
painful.
worked from
my
home,
God.
and we just had a second line that was just like internet. I was on all the time.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Whoa.
That was in the ancient times. That was early 90s, mid 90s, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe mid 90s. Anyway, I also realized something while we were doing our news stories there in the first part. It finally became a real podcast because Schrodinger jumped up on the desk here and joined us.
Yeah.
Hey, Schrodinger.
It's official.
He's napping right here next
He's
to me.
zonked out.
There's a little bit more space on the desk now because we don't have the computer on the desk anymore.
Yeah.
I think that's what he was mad about. He was like, dude, I can't lay on the heat source.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's over there now, and like, I think
But you're
David
over
will
here.
be-
You won't be able to
Somehow
pet me.
What do I
he picked
do?
up that we're just doing a show again. He just insists on being on these tables.
I think he's prioritizing pets over heat right now. I think that might change in the winter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
could be.
We'll see.
Yeah.
I'm geeking out about it a little bit, but that's fine.
That's great.
I'm cool with it. He's a
Yeah.
good cat. All right. So guys, tonight I want to talk about autonomous trucks, as I said.
Heck yeah.
So we've talked a lot about self-driving cars, and I want to pick your brains real quick before I go into this, because what spurred this was it was 2 things. It was, as I was researching this, it was about a week ago. I found a couple articles. I ended up tweeting one out on our Technophiles Twitter account about just the kind of what if scenario of what could happen to truck drivers, semi-truck drivers, the entire industry, if even a portion of that industry becomes autonomous.
Mm-hmm.
There's already many trucks out there that have the ability to be autonomous. There's a lot of like stuff where the drivers are sitting in the trucks and they put, well, not a lot. I shouldn't say a lot, but more than you would think. It's not I mean, there's some that are out in production. I have some notes about certain things, like something in Nebraska. There's an entire truck line that just got okayed, but we'll get into that a little bit later. We always talk about how will it change our personal lives to have a car that drives somewhere, this or that. We talked about autonomy with factories sending things, but I never really thought about the truck thing. I really didn't. I thought, okay, fine, that makes sense. But one of the things that I learned was the autonomous truck industry, self-driving trucks, is probably going to happen, and by happen I just mean saturate the roads quicker than commercial cars, I think. We just got done talking about, we always talk about Google, and Mercedes has a self-driving program going to it's in development. Tesla said it. Apple has talked about their Apple car being self-driving, like all of that kind of stuff. But when you think about trucks, let me actually ask you guys this first. I hope this isn't a loaded question, Vee. If I may, why do you think it would be easier for autonomous trucks to get kicked off than personal driving cars? Because this wasn't obvious to me at first.
I think there's a more obvious profit to it. I think companies would be, like shipping companies, would be more open to maybe having a more reliable driving system. They'd be able to afford it, for one.
Yeah.
Like self-driving cars now for passengers and regular drivers is just that's not in our price, like in a convenient price range right now. In fact, like it's not even out for us at all.
Right. I mean, I think
Not
what the
completely,
closest there is
like-
right now, I think, is kind of the autopilot.
Yeah, the Tesla guided
right?
autopilot. Yeah.
Is that for commercial use? Not commercial. I keep
That's
saying commercial,
for,
like
like-
people. I
like-
don't mean commercial. I mean
Yeah.
Consumer.
Public consumer use. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's still pretty expensive for Tesla.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that in their $250,000 model?
think so. Yeah, it's the
I have no
model.
idea.
It's the new Model S. I don't remember.
I think
how
all
much
the
it's
new
going
S's.
for.
I don't know. Do you
They
know
all
much about
have
that,
them.
Jake?
They're about $116,000.
There
Is
we
that
go.
what it is? 116. So I was off, but a little, but you know.
Off by about 100,000, but that's
Right.
okay.
Yeah.
Right.
No,
I mean,
guys, you can
know.
get the Model S Zero for $55.
The Model S, the base Model S for 55.
The Model S Zero, which is a new one, shorter range, and I think it has still the same stuff. You can lease it for 2 years for $555 a month. They like to tell me that in email because I really want a
Jake
Model
has
3.
done his homework here.
Oh.
I mean, I just really want a Tesla.
Jake, why do you
Yeah.
think it might be easier for trucks to kick off than
Yeah.
Well, I
consumer
think
cars?
that there are very definitive shipping lanes that the United States uses.
True.
I mean, when my wife and I moved home from California a few years ago, we got on and we're laughing at our GPS because it was like, take Highway 80 for 4,000 miles.
Right. Sure. Right. Yeah.
So when you're programming this, you don't have to worry about narrow streets or pedestrians as much because
Yeah.
it's like, get this car on the highway, make it go straight in the right lane,
Yep.
and do that for 1,000 miles.
Yeah, it's consistent and well
the-
traveled.
Yes, the semi-truck industry is the closest to like what a train would be for
Yeah.
driving. You
Sure.
know?
That's
and,
right,
and that's actually the very point. Half the time they're sharing the payloads and everything. They're literally picking it up and putting it on a flatbed sometimes.
Yeah.
There was a quote here that I found that I thought was interesting, and it was about self-driving autonomy in general. And it speaks to this thing with trucks being on the highway. It was by Burkhard Bleiger, and he said this in The New Yorker. He said, 98% of driving is just following the dotted line. It's the other 2% that matters. And that's true. And I think with trucking, it's even more just on the highways. There's smaller trucks that we see that are going through neighborhoods and stuff like that. When we're talking about the big semis, oftentimes they're even pulling into industrial parks. They're rare. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of times where a semi is having to go through neighborhood. But more and more, we have these huge truck docking bays in these big factories that we see and stuff now. So the big thing that makes it more, that I was excited to learn about, that makes it a little bit more realistic, is the standardization and economy of scale. So a trucking company is very interested in buying 5,000 models of self-driving truck A, whereas like a consumer, that one car of self-driving car A, it's a little harder to swallow. For a company, they put it into their budget, they put it into their annual stuff. And actually, I found out that it's like just millions and millions of dollars would be saved like in 1 year for so many cars. Like it's
just by not paying a driver.
So the driver is the most expensive part of a trucking industry's budget, I found out.
Yeah, I saw it. So it's really funny because I knew that we were having this conversation today, and I drove Tuesday. So we're recording on a Wednesday.
This will come out Saturday.
Yep. But I was on the road from 7 a.m. yesterday until 5:30 a.m. in the morning this morning. And I saw quite a few trucks, and they had like the most expensive cargo we're carrying is right here with an arrow pointing at the driver. And so, but
wow, that's aggressive.
Yeah, it was a very interesting thing. But like, I don't know where the conversation's fully going to be going tonight, but I mean, just based on what I observed yesterday, I mean, I have a lot of opinions, but I'm curious how many people lose their jobs.
So that's really what triggered this whole thing. There's kind of a two parts to this story, which that I'm trying to lead to the second part. I'm kind of burying the lead here with the second part, but you're absolutely right. The thing that really originally caught my attention is that there's just a tremendous amount of people, hundreds of thousands of people would be losing their jobs as drivers just in America. And it's the companies, it's almost a no-brainer for the companies. They would save so much money.
Yeah.
Fortunately, unfortunately, depends on who you talk to, obviously. Okay, so that's what originally caught my attention. I wanted to talk about the mechanics of a self-driving truck a little.
Before we do that, though, can we just come down like, I mean, are any of us, do any of us have truck driving family members?
I don't.
But like, are we in favor of this, even if it screws?
So I think it's a tricky conversation.
Out of a job?
Yeah.
Hold on. So, but there's this isn't an either or, because and now I'm really sorry, but I did not look through all of the links, so I'm not sure if you linked this or not. But I saw an article that actually used this as an example of why the only way America, and it was specifically about America, is going to be able to keep functioning is if we do a basic income. And they used the whole truck driver conundrum to take care of this. Now, the idea behind a basic income is that everyone gets X amount of dollars per month, X being a number that is enough for basic food and shelter. And then,
that's not going to happen.
If you want over that, it's an option.
Quite a tangent there, Krista-Lee.
Yeah.
But
It's got big.
But the whole article, I'm just saying,
right.
It doesn't have to be millions of people out of work.
I don't think it does either.
Right.
No.
I think we need to figure out a way to repurpose what these people are doing.
Yes,
Yeah.
right, exactly. Mm-hmm. So now here's another thing. This is something that happened while I was researching this. I thought the conversation was going to tonight be basically about like why a lot of people lose their jobs. Obviously, this show celebrates autonomous driving all the time. We're always very excited about it. I think I speak for all of us that it's an exciting development in our technological history right now. But it's easy to talk about the car that drives to the soccer field to pick up your kid and then drives them home. But we're talking about something like this, which is really, making some. We have talked about little things like, oh, it's going to change how speeding tickets work, and it's going to change how police officers work, and there won't be speeding anymore because there won't be speed limits. But then I've said on the show before, like then maybe people have like fast passes. They actually prepay speeding tickets essentially by paying a premium so that their car
they already do that.
10 miles faster.
They already do that.
And how do they?
They're express lanes, and you pay money for them.
Oh,
on
really?
toll roads. Yes.
You pay money for express lanes? Not in Illinois.
Not in Illinois. Denver is trying this out. There's a few other places that are doing this where you pay a premium to use the lane.
Now in Illinois, the express, or at least in Chicago, the express lane is more just a matter of flow.
Yeah, they just turn it
flow.
on and off. Yeah,
They flip it back and forth. It's an extra 2 lanes. So that's true. That's different. Well, I mean, there we go. Okay, so anyway, as I'm researching this, to my surprise, this bombshell about Uber happened. Have you guys seen this past week?
No.
So there's a company called Otto, O-T-T-O.
I saw this.
Their website is ot.to, not to be confused with automotors.com, which is another robotics company that's creating robots for like factories and stuff. And that company's super awesome too, so you're welcome to go check them out. But make sure that I think it's 2 different companies.
Yeah.
Sure.
ot.to.
Find the one that just got bought by Uber for a lot of money.
So when you go to their homepage now, it's Auto plus Uber. So it has not been a secret that Uber's past couple of years, they've been researching autonomous driving, cars. In fact, their whole plan is to really kind of nix the whole person driving thing and just let it be a bunch of robot cars.
Yeah, just all profit.
They're not that secret about that right now. That,
Okay.
Eventually that's kind of what they want.
You can ride in cars that have autonomous drivers for free, right? Is that Uber that does that?
I don't know what you're talking about.
I think there's a pilot program somewhere. I hope I'm not wrong, but I remember hearing something, and this could be in the Bay Area right now, where they're pilot programming autonomous taxis. You jump in. There's a driver in there just to make sure things go okay, but basically you ride for free.
Interesting.
You're testing their program out. You are not the pilot of the pilot
that's
program.
Uber specifically, right?
I believe so.
I think they're
Do you
doing
have
it
to
somewhere.
sign something before you hop in that?
I don't know.
I don't know.
But anyway, so Uber has been like kind of backdooring this for a while. I mean, like I said, they've been public about it, but they've also been secretly really aggressive with it. They, about a year ago or half a year ago, they actually hired Andrew Lewandowski, who was one of the co-founders of the Google self-driving car program. They brought him over and a lot of his team.
Sneaky.
They brought an entire research team from Carnegie Mellon and hired them back in 2015.
Oh.
The entire team of kids that was making stuff. I say kids, but whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there's like, hey, come on over here to Uber. So they've been doing this kind of stuff. They've been scooping it up. Now, what happened was Otto, O-T-T-O, is almost the leader in self-driving semi-trucks right now. They have some really impressive models out there. There's a lot of videos. I was hoping to show one tonight if it was a video episode. But Otto has been doing some really impressive things, and they're hiring right now. There's like 40 job postings on their website. Maybe it's because they're starting to amp things up because Uber bought them.
What positions are they hiring for?
All over the place. It's like programmers, it's engineers, a lot of that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But the big thing here is that this now puts Uber, from a numbers point of view, from an assets in the company point of view, on par with Google as far as how much autonomous driving ability that company might have, as far as like in getting put in the history books now of pushing autonomous vehicles forward. And they did it with semi-trucks.
Huh.
It's confusing to me a little bit that Uber buys Otto, and Otto has all these amazing semi-trucks. I mean, that technology could probably quickly and easily get converted to taxi cabs, I'm sure.
Yeah. It makes sense to test something that's on the road for extended periods of time in a pretty simplistic way, like to test your methods and your technology on that, since it's pretty well rehearsed.
Well, and
Go ahead.
here's the other thing with that. Now, so if they got the trucks thing, and now because it's Uber, let's assume they go away from drivers. Now you could replace the truck drivers, the taxi drivers, the Lyft drivers, the Uber drivers. I mean, we might as well just go ahead, and I think, rich people still have chauffeurs sometimes, right? We can get rid of the chauffeurs. I mean, we're talking, the trucking industry alone is millions of drivers you could be getting rid of. Now you add all of these other things, you're adding that many millions more of people.
That's a huge industry suck dry.
Yes. Yeah, but that's like...
What's up?
It has to happen.
Yes, I agree. But we need to...
$680 million Uber paid for auto.
Yeah.
Which actually maybe isn't a lot, because a lot of times we're talking about billions these days.
That sounds like a steal.
Yeah.
That
it really does.
bad.
Uber got a deal.
Let me make sure that that's correct.
It's correct.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
There's tons of jobs that are going to be lost.
Pardon me, I want to correct myself real quick. Anthony Lewandowski went over, after doing the Google Car program, went over to Auto to help them and design the semi-trucks. And now Uber bought that. So they, by proxy or whatever, that's how they brought Lewandowski on board.
Okay.
Yeah, but they basically paid, they got a really good deal. I think a lot of the articles were like, wow, they picked up a remarkable employee for really cheap because he went over there, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not
Google got screwed.
It's not that Lewandowski was like, I'm going to go on over to Uber. He was like, I'm going to go make self-driving trucks. And then Uber was like, scoop.
Yeah. And Google's like, dang it, we should have bought that.
I'll take the lot. Just because I want that one candy.
So we have a few minutes before we have to go to break, but how do we make sense of all of this? What are your thoughts as we talk about this?
I feel like we have to unravel job stuff after break.
Yeah, we can go into that.
Yeah.
We can go to that after break.
I would say that as someone who just got off of the road, having as a driver on the road, I would feel a lot safer if semi-truck drivers were not
humans.
Human.
I agree. No, I agree. I would feel much safer if they were robots. Now, I've spoken to a few people about this story casually as I've been putting my notes together this week. And many of them, their first reaction, they're people that maybe don't necessarily fully listen to technology podcasts or make them, but they're smart people. Always the first reaction is, well, that doesn't sound safe at all. And maybe I think to someone, that is kind of the general public's reaction.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
Drive for 19 hours on a 2-lane road where semis use it frequently and try and pass each other because that one semi wants to get there slightly faster because probably some of the amount of money that these people make is based on how fast they deliver something safely, right?
Yeah,
and I'm using air quotes here. No one can see this, but
because they have speed limit algorithms and all that.
Yeah.
When you have a truck going 65 and a 75 and one of them wants to get around it, they go 66. And now you've backed up all of the traffic, and there's a lot of danger. Even a blind spot. Think about it. These robots will not hit. As long as they're built right, and these are ifs, but they're not going to hit cars.
Well, let's do this.
They're not going to jump lanes. They're going to go exactly where they need to go, and they're going to arrive.
Some of the general public that I was speaking to, they were saying I wouldn't want to get cut off by a robot semi-truck. It wouldn't even know I'm there. And I think that's just a little bit of perception. We've been talking about
thing.
We as in us, the Technophiles crew.
The robot knows you're there. It's the person who's on their cell phone. It's falling asleep.
Or the sleepy truck driver who's powering through. And I know there's regulations against this stuff, but it happens too.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure. So let's do a little bit of blue sky solutioneering here, and then we'll go to break and talk about the jobs thing. So the ways that this can benefit the roads and highways and life, I think to us are a bit obvious. They get very exciting. There are some extra things I want to talk about. There's this idea, this is not a totally new idea, but it might be new to some people, creating these, what they're calling truck trains, where there'll be a dominant truck driving and other trucks can come in and using Wi-Fi, they'll basically latch onto the other truck just with proximity, and then they can they can dumb down their intelligence a little once they're latched into the truck train.
It's like the Tour de France and all the people, like you have your crew of bicyclists and you have the one up front that's doing all the work, and then you just start slingshotting and going very fast. And
right, you go in front of them. So I think this truck train is awesome, because then there's even talk about how autonomous cars, literally like consumer cars, can latch into these trains, and there's talk about this being a whole thing where like the highways,
the ideal autonomous system.
Yeah, so one of the things that gets interesting is there's a lot of discussion about we have a lot of different kinds of vehicles that are going to become autonomous very quickly here. A lot of different companies making them. I think it's obvious to us, I would suspect, that there needs to be some kind of standardization of how they talk to each other. Because right now the way they're doing it is, LiDAR and cameras and radar and stuff like that. I don't know if it's radar. It's usually just the laser radar stuff. Mm-hmm. Because they're looking at cars that aren't talking back. They're looking at cars that are driven by humans. Yeah. But there's an extra bonus here. Once the majority of the cars are autonomous, they can be speaking to each other. So this car that's in lane 1, 2, and 3, or left lane, middle, and right, the car in the middle that wants to pass or get behind a car that's in the right lane, not only can it just want to do it and navigate correctly, it can ping out a little thing to that car saying, hey, I'd like to pull in behind you here. Watch out or whatever. And both cars can then navigate that. That's something that gets really interesting really fast to me.
Think of how much better merging onto the freeway will be.
I mean, it wouldn't even exist. It wouldn't exist because it would be perfect.
My gosh.
But like, even if it's not perfect, you could set it up in such a way where the green light, red light system is tied into how these shipping lanes are moving trucks. Because essentially that's like maybe okay, we should go to break because I feel
we got a few minutes.
Okay, well, so, you already have people whose jobs are to stay alert and attentive for incredible long amounts of time as truck drivers. So we could start putting them as like, what if some of these people still got to sit on their chair and do work, but they did this from a factory that has a bunch of other truck drivers and they're like overseeing the head truck. Or making sure that like the shipping lanes that they're like now they're responsible for like this part of the route and making sure that like things work. I don't know how much communication is going to be needed here, but I think that there's a lot of things that we're going to need to be doing and checking in on. We already like drone pilots, right? Pilots still have jobs. They're just flying.
They're just flying with remote controls now. Yeah, that's fair.
And so what if some of these? We have a lot of workers and we could figure out interesting. I feel like the companies need to figure out good ways to use these people.
I think the movement of goods and having our highways be safer, I think that is all a positive thing that's going to come from autonomous vehicles. Mm-hmm. That's clear. The ripple effect of that is something we can talk about in just a minute. Why don't we go to break and we'll come back? I also had a little bit of fun and did a little bit of research on the history of autonomous cars, and I'll just drop some of those.
I want to hear about that
when we get back.
Yeah,
they're just quick little things. So I'll give you a hint. That history starts in 1478.
What?
When Google time traveled. No, wait. That hasn't happened
One day
yet.
we'll have an animal that will drive our carts for us.
But
we haven't discovered horses yet.
I even found a little bit of research on how there would be back in the horse and carriage days. I guess the carriage drivers or whatever. I don't even know what the correct terminology is here. I apologize. Sometimes they wouldn't even know the way to a certain city, but the horse had done it so much that it did.
Whoa.
And there were jokes about that being like an autonomous vehicle a little bit.
They will have a system of hyper-intelligent horses.
We had this issue when the Model T was coming out too about like, oh no, like all the horses and all the blacksmiths and the...
That's interesting, you're right.
These things had changed, but then what happened was like we invented...
Well, let's get into it after the break because I have a comment about that. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Okay, we'll go to break. We'll see you guys in 30 seconds or so. From TPN at technophilespodcast.com, I'm David Geisler, and this is the Technophiles Podcast.
I've got something to say about trucks.
All right.
I could eat a truck.
You know what I'm saying?
I feel like you could come back on Vee saying that. I could eat a truck.
Maybe we will.
I can eat an automated truck.
Our break. And here we are. I took the...
I eat automated cars and I crap automated trucks. I don't...
Can you digest them?
It was way better.
She's going back to the battery.
No, I was going back to like Rocky.
Oh, you're trying to
Yeah.
quote Rocky.
Yeah, that was bad.
Yeah,
I'm
that
sorry.
failed really hard.
It was good, and then I ruined it. It was good to begin with.
It was
Who am I
really
It's like
kidding?
your own opinion, V.
Really swell. Well, okay, guys, let's do this. We're going to talk about jobs and everything like that in just a second. But just for the fun of it, let me lay down a little bit of autonomous car history. And a lot of this you guys are going to know about. But so the farthest I could find on the internet, the farthest back of any kind of like history of autonomous car websites or any kind of just all the Googling I did, the oldest, this is a real technicality, but the oldest version of the concept of a self-driving, and I shouldn't say self-driving, but like an autonomous four-wheeled vehicle that would not have a driver and would go off on its own was designed, of course, by Leonardo da Vinci in 1478.
Is there anything that guy didn't design?
Yeah.
I know, really. I kind of like design. He had some bad designs and some good designs. This is one of those where...
He was the original time traveler.
Da Vinci?
Yes. There it is. We figured it out.
Oh, so he's like actually coming back from the future or something?
Uh-huh.
He's like, I can't. We need circuits and stuff, but like whatever. Let's just do it.
Yeah, let's just
Well,
use wood.
So this was something called the Clockwork Cart. Have you guys ever heard of this? I actually did kind of. Once I saw it, I was like, oh, I kind of remember learning about this a little bit.
Okay.
So the Clockwork Cart was a quote-unquote computerized vehicle that you could program. So what it really was it was a series of gears and pulleys and cogs, and you could, by essentially program data into those gears by which ones, putting pegs in certain wheels would make something go. You get the idea here, right?
Yeah.
So it would go forward for 30 feet and then turn left for 90 degrees based on a completely wound up with a spring pre-programmed path that it would take based on the execution of these gears and things and pulleys that were going.
Oh.
So his idea was that you would, of course the car wasn't, back then they thought the car was really intelligent, but they were like, look, it has all this intelligence in it. And it's kind of cool how it is technically data, like it is data stored, recorded in these cogs and things,
It's making me think of like Santi, Three-Body Problem, where they use all the people as like the computer network to run equations.
Perhaps.
Yep.
Sorry,
That's
tangent to
Sci-Fi Science episode 4. People can
Yeah.
check it out on our YouTube page.
Yeah.
You know what I just
YouTube
thought?
/
We should have made that episode 3 for the 3 body.
Oh my
problem.
god!
Oh, why didn't we think about it? We really
Who
screwed
is
that
The
up.
producer on that show.
You
Really
goofed
screwed
it.
that up. I'll talk to the producer on Friday.
I'll have words as well. Yeah.
So anyway, this Clockwork Cart, that's kind of interesting, but of course the reason that doesn't... Oh, so his idea, though, is the same way that like we have phone numbers now or addresses, is he was trying to make his idea... I would call it idea because it's really just... Oh, here, maybe I can show you guys an asset here. His idea... Okay, you can pass that around.
Okay.
His idea was that everybody would have a directory of like, okay, send it there, almost like setting an address, but you set the code with pogs and...
Jake's 50 feet down, 90-degree turn.
Like, Jake's house
150
is-
feet
Yeah.
down.
And maybe they
then-
could even
Yeah, like-
numerate, give it a number code. So it's like, oh, Jake's house is from my house. Jake's house is 582346792. And they pull the things and do. Kind of
Right.
makes sense.
Yeah.
I think
you're
at the time,
giving it a specific input that equals his place.
at the time, probably a good idea. Kind of interesting.
That is interesting.
And then what happened was there wasn't much more. That's obviously not. Maybe it is a little bit autonomous, but as soon as that thing hits, there's a lot of like chaos theory going on there. As
Oh,
soon
yeah,
as that
assuming
cart
none-
bumps into one stone and it's off by half a degree,
Yeah,
that
it's-
stuff gets distorted quickly and it,
It
doesn't
just starts
really work.
bumping up against your house.
It's Robo Rally.
I was talking to Leslie about this
Yeah,
a little
right,
bit
exactly.
yesterday,
You know that game? Yeah.
and I was telling her about it, and she's like, "Oh, that's kind of interesting." And I was like, "Yeah, but it probably gets off of its programming pretty quickly." And she's like, "It was all fields back then anyway."
Oh, that's a good point.
It doesn't really matter if it's off
Yeah.
100 feet. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? Well, anyway, so then there was a lot of talk in like the 1930s and in 1947, General Motors had a big display at the World's Fair where they were proposing that they were going to be the leader in autonomous cars. And at the time, it was all about putting copper pipes in the highways and then using magnets and sensors.
Oh.
Not magnets to keep the cars on the road, but magnets to sense the pipe. Then the car would auto steer
Mhm.
off of preset pipe. It's essentially a track, like a slot car almost, really. Well,
Yeah.
except it doesn't get its power that way, but you get the idea.
Right.
That's basically a car as a train, you know what I mean? Then in the 50s here, there was a big push. Oh, here's actually something
We were on that idea though for so long.
For so long.
Yeah.
For
It
like
was
almost 100
it's gotta
years.
follow the. We need to know exactly where it's going all the time before we send it.
I still hear remnants of that like theory for like driving car systems all the time from people where it's like, oh, we just got to put like stuff underneath the roads that the cars can follow.
Here's an
It's
ad in the
crazy.
early 50s advertising self-driving cars everywhere.
Oh
See
yeah.
that? Was this in a newspaper? This
Oh
ad
my
here that I
gosh.
found. I know our listeners can't see it. I'm sorry, but it's
Yeah.
a family
Some
playing Scrabble in the middle of their car while the mom and dad sit backwards in the driver's seats. The driver's seats turn around, and
Yeah.
the son and daughter
It's
or
like the
whatever
Jetsons.
are in the back. What I find interesting about this advertisement that we're looking at is
There's like 5 cars on the road. That's absurd. In the middle of the day.
in the middle
Yeah.
of the day, 5 cars.
on.
But what I find interesting is tons of autonomous cars right now are doing concepts with seats that spin around. Mercedes-Benz has a concept car that spins around. There's a lot of other cars that are talking. There's one that's a 2-person sports car, and the seats spin around once it goes into autonomous mode, and then the back of the car, maybe it was a 4-seater or 4-door or whatever, but the back comes down and there's a huge screen there for people to do work and stuff like that. These are all concept cars.
Yeah.
So the spinning seats is interesting because there it was even in like the early 50s.
Yeah.
And let's see. So then when things really got serious was in the early to mid 2000s. And there was this race. I actually remember watching the Nova episode about this, and I actually forget the name of the race now. It was something kind of generic, like a Grand Master race or something.
It was a grand challenge, right?
Grand Challenge, I think. Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right. And there was the first year that they had this challenge. And so the challenge was to have autonomous vehicles do a race, an off-road race, not through city sections.
Okay.
And so a lot of companies would build these huge kind of moon rock looking or, moon car looking devices and stuff. There was a group that had like a huge, literally like a Hummer that they, threw a bunch of sensors on. And the first year, every single vehicle crashed within the first mile. Some of it was only hundreds of feet and stuff like that.
Oh,
They
no.
flat out crashed. It was terrible. It was supposed to be like a 15-mile race. It's not. Don't take me for that as the stats, but it's something long enough that was a real race.
Yeah.
So the original plan for a lot of these cars was they would do kind of almost what was being proposed in the 50s, but they were doing it with GPS.
Yep.
So it's interesting how every idea piggybacks off another idea.
Yeah.
So instead of putting copper pipes in the desert to have these things race,
But
what they
virtual.
would do is what a lot of the teams would do is they basically would have a vehicle that would use LiDAR, which is laser radar. It's fast and it's more precise to scan the area. They would oftentimes use actual radar, and they'd sometimes have some visual cameras out front. But the laser radar was really the big thing, because what that does is it doesn't give you color, but it gives you three-dimensional topography in front of you.
Yeah.
But many of the teams, in my opinion, faulted in that they basically pre-programmed a route to do the track down to the foot.
Oh.
So they're really just remote controlling this thing just
Sure.
way ahead of time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And if they get the program wrong a little bit, to the point where they're telling the cars, one of the teams that was doing really, really well, and I have that in my notes here, and let me just bring it up real quick.
They hid a driver in the car.
Hit a driver in the car. No, they didn't. But I think it was the So Carnegie Mellon was actually one of the teams that would work on this, and to the point where they would actually program instructions to the car so I think there was something about you cannot communicate instructions to the vehicle once it gets started.
Oh, okay.
So they would program the whole race out down to the speed that they thought it needed to take. They'd write these kind of curve vectors that the cars should take to go through the route. And the Carnegie Mellon team usually did pretty well. They had 2 different vehicles that would go.
Yeah.
But about 2 or 3 years in, and it was in 2005 actually, Stanford entered this grand challenge, and they were a new team. It was a small team, 5 people, and specifically the Sebastian Thrun, who is a big name now. He's becomes important for a lot of reasons. This is pre-Google car stuff like that, but he and his team, they put a car out there that had LiDAR, a little bit of GPS, but it didn't use much of it. That was more for just them to watch. And it used, the big thing is that it had a couple video cameras in front to look at the terrain. And their plan was to do the whole thing with software. In other words, they told it not to do anything. They just trained it for months and months and months. So the car knew the route it needed to do. They allowed the software to pick its own speed, whatever it wanted to do, And also they taught it to basically, avoid sticks and stones, we'll say, big boulders. So it knew where it needed to go. They just gave it checkpoints, and it could choose its own route and its own speed. And it would make its decisions, give or take 10 feet.
Yeah.
It would see some stones or a big hill, and it would go this way or that way and steer around a little bit. And they won. They actually, this was kind of cool.
Did they complete the course?
They completed the course. That year, they completed the course. Carnegie Mellon, I think, did. One of theirs crashed. One of them completed it. There's honestly, if you can find it out on the internet, back in like 2006 or something, there's a Nova episode on this race, and it's captivating.
I feel like I remember.
It's captivating. It's so. There's a moment where it's so well made that there's a moment where the Stanford car passes the Carnegie Mellon car.
Whoa.
And here's the thing, what's interesting about that is all the vehicles did this same route, but they didn't all leave at the same time. They were off, 15 minutes. They paced it because it was essentially a single lane race, right?
Well, it's like,
Yeah.
So really, it's like it's a rally, right?
It kind of is. You're absolutely right.
So the rally cars, you're always chasing the other car.
And it's about the time.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So the Stanford car did so well that it caught up to the Carnegie Mellon car and then passed it. And of course, the Nova episode gets very emotional. And it's like, this is the first time that one robot is passing another robot in our history and stuff. And like, I got choked up when I saw it as a kid. I literally did. This is almost 10 years ago, easily. It was fascinating. So that moment, what Stanford did back in 2006 or 2005 or whatever, in that area, 2005, has led the way for all autonomous cars. Now, that's the thing now. It's all about putting the intelligence in there. No more rails and highways, nothing like that. We still have things where the closest we get to rails with autonomous cars right now is like lane detection, I think. Wouldn't you say, Jake or Krista-Lee or Vee or anybody? Like the car has its GPS information. It knows where it needs to go, but the lane detection helps it. And actually, that's a very good point.
Yeah.
Is that this Grand Challenge race still happens, but they've actually introduced like urban elements to it now and streets that they have to go through and stuff like that because it's all different math. Because really when you're out there in the wild, it's really like just don't hit a big stone.
Yeah.
Get there and don't hit a big
Pretty
stone.
much.
Right.
And it's so much more complicated now. So anyway, that's about 10 years ago. And about 7 years ago is when Google said, give us 8 years and we'll have self-driving cars. And they like beat that by a couple of years and all that. And so that leads us to now. So I think that's kind of neat. I don't know. I just want to talk about that a little bit. So now we're at self-driving trucks that are so safe that they're allegedly safer than human drivers, and probably statistically they are so far.
That doesn't seem very hard to accomplish.
I agree. So now we're in a place where, I think the robot cars are going to take over. They're not going to just...
the robot trucks for now, right?
Yeah. So we obviously have a little bit of time. Maybe I took a little too long doing that history thing there, but we have plenty of time.
Yeah.
We've got easily another 10, 15 minutes to talk about what the trucking industry what this might do for people. So I think, Jake, you've got a lot of ideas in your head over there.
Well, no, I just think that, so I just got done over the summer break, going back to that for a minute. I read Carl Horner's book, The Slow Fix, which is a bunch of really interesting case studies about how when you want to do something right, you need to kind of be inclusive in your thoughts and realize that no thing too large or small it might have an influence on things. And it was looking at things like ExxonMobil and what they did kind of post-spill. It was looking at, I don't know, a lot of different case studies of where you need to stop and think, okay, we're about to change things a lot, or we have a problem and we're going to fix it, and you need to go back through. So I think that if these companies... I don't even know if I have necessarily good ideas, but I think that there is no way that these companies can automate all of this shipping without having a game plan for their employees. And I'm going to be very curious to see what those are in the coming years. Because
they could just be jerks and drop them, right?
But I think that most of these truckers have unions.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
There is no way that the union's going to allow this. There's certain job securities there. Sure, maybe there are some companies, or maybe there's companies that come out and they say, what I'm think the issue might be is the disruptive factor of a company like Uber or of Otto, where if they don't have employees that are already driving trucks, then they might just come in and scoop the entire market by saying, hey,
right.
People who want to deal with shipping, you just go through us.
Use us.
Yeah, we're the tech company that does this. We never had drivers to begin with.
Employee thing. Never had them in the begin with. They're not quote unquote evil or whatever.
And so now maybe other companies like right now they have like their subsidiaries, which are like the new trucking lines, and they're just, I mean, it depends on how it's marketed. There very well could be a collapse of an entire economy that just happens because they're jerks.
I forgot to mention this, but Cisco already has a number of autonomous dump trucks that work in construction sites, like the big mining, those huge dump trucks that are like size of buildings.
Yeah.
A lot of that stuff's already becoming automated, and that's obviously affecting the workers a little bit. It turns into one guy in a tower watching 6 trucks over a computer instead of 6 guys in a truck each.
Right. So, right.
Yeah, and it might be a slow fade. Right. It might not necessarily be a company that says we're just going to dump all of these drivers immediately. It could be
25% of our workforce is automated by whatever.
Exactly.
And I should note that all the current autonomous trucks, because there are some out there, still require the driver to be in them right now. There is not just a piece of metal out there being driven by a computer program right now.
Yeah.
The truck driver toggles into the autonomous mode, and then they can hang out and I don't know, play games or talk on the phone or do whatever they need to do. It doesn't matter what they want to do. They can hang out. But again, I think the reason that is because of this 2% that I talked about earlier in that previous quote. When the autonomous truck, any truck, gets off the highway, that's when things get tricky. That's when humans, and this is maybe something that's going for the humans, navigating that funky 2-lane cross stop where you got to get under a red light that's for some reason not standard and too low, or the truck that has to go up over the curb because it's on a roundabout or something, where those human drivers need to make some critical decisions for some of that navigation. That's something that becomes interesting to me. Now, one of the ways that immediately I think about like that could be fixed is you maybe start creating these kind of like truck hubs where
I think they'll definitely do that.
Truck stations, I think. So a truck
they're saving so much money.
Right, they're saving so much money that you really basically create these truck stops, also literal truck stops. So a truck almost never goes off. An autonomous truck is almost never not on a highway.
Yeah.
It's an entrance and exit ramp right onto a highway.
Right there.
That thing pulls into a truck stop where maybe there's a couple extra sensors to help it, whatever. That stuff gets moved by robots onto a human-driven truck, which is half the size, and then it goes into the town or something. I don't know.
Can you imagine how easy it's going to be, like, to have an automated truck back into a spot? Because I know with humans, that's
just
like
going to do it.
The hardest thing. With the robot, cars already parallel park themselves.
Yeah.
Like, that's got to be a breeze.
I mean,
oh my gosh.
Right.
But we're assuming they wouldn't put the automated truck on the road. But if we are already working toward cars that are going to go in neighborhoods,
I'm just trying to score for the humans with my comment. Not that that's not in the bigger picture, but for one, I'm like, well, maybe that 2% is still a thing that might be tricky. I don't know. What do you think?
I think basic income.
You hire these truck drivers who have been doing. You repurpose their jobs to try and think about how we can update our entire the way traffic things behave so that we can make it more efficient to get things to places.
Well, what's tricky here is the scientists the engineers are doing this because it's a very exciting technology. At the end of the day, the trucking companies aren't very shy about the fact that it's a bottom line situation.
Yeah.
Right.
So I don't know if they're interested in repurposing jobs. I'm not speaking for them, but it sure seems that way.
It may be just a gradual thing that happens. Maybe as they slowly introduce more automated trucks in there, they kind of figure out what to do with those people that they don't
hope that the trucking...
You figure out where the needs are.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, and you just hope that the trucking company... I mean, there has to be some regulatory board on our... the government agency is being... there's some control over what we can do and cannot do in America in transportation.
Sure.
Right? Trucks have to go and they have to get weighed and do all these different things. So there are regulations that are state level and everything. So, there is no way that... I don't know. I hate to say no way, but hopefully...
We're just expressing thoughts right now. We're not talking
hopefully
about
someone that has some level of control will not let the entire... I mean, this could be a huge collapse on the economy if all of a sudden however many truck drivers don't have a job.
Yeah.
I mean, even if it happens over 5 or 10 years, if we don't have replacement positions for these hundreds of thousands of people, bad things are going to happen, right? So, I don't know. I'm really looking forward to seeing what the solution is from these companies.
Yeah.
Because you can't, the book, back to the Solfix quick, from my perspective, you can't just bottom line it. If you bottom line it, it will fail.
And it fails because there's a ripple effect of other things that come around. Yeah.
Because guess what? The truck drivers are the same people that buy the crap that's on the trucks that you're sending.
Yeah.
And when they don't do that anymore, then you're not sending any trucks.
Yeah. They're keeping rest stops alive. They're keeping all those little hotels alive.
Right.
Like
I just watched.
I mean, things are going to change. But
I just casually watched The Big Short the other day. I know I'm a little late to the party with that one, but
I haven't seen it yet.
So it was amazing. I actually loved it. Very quickly, I'll note, but there was one part where I think Brad Pitt's character says something where essentially these guys are making very strategic decisions to. They're looking at the numbers and they're finding things that other people aren't seeing. So you're kind of rooting for them a little bit, but at a certain point, these characters have to. They also realize, I guess you could say, that unfortunately the way those numbers were working means like tons of people losing their jobs. And at one point, two of the younger characters were kind of celebrating over one of these mathematical victories, right? We'll say, because they're just number guys and they're doing cool things with the numbers. But Brad Pitt's character, he plays an older character, gets a little upset with them, and he says these aren't just numbers. These are thousands of people are going to be going. And he said something, and I believe this statistic must be true. I don't know. I believe it for the story. He said every time unemployment goes up 1%, it's like 1,400 people die or something like that. It's crazy like that. Now I don't even have the statistic to back it up, but it was something where like just 1% on a spreadsheet, actually the ripple effect means 1,000 people die.
Yeah.
It's huge. It's insane.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, but V, you pointed something very like truck stops, gas stations. I mean, not that those. I mean, those things will all of those things will have to change to accommodate this.
Yeah, that's another like taking paying customers that are truck drivers out of that market that are traveling on those trucks every day.
What is all of Nebraska going to do?
Dear God! Oh my God!
Sorry, people in Nebraska. I'm
dang.
Mostly kidding.
And what's going to happen to the CB radio industry? Who's going to be out there to say, "Hey, this is Bulldog.
FaceTiming now.
Keep an eye out for the Grizzly. I'm heading to T-Town, 10-4. Good buddy."
Wow, V. Wow.
I don't know. It's tricky. I think it's a very tricky thing.
Whatever happens, this is not something new to our society.
No, right? And I think it has to happen.
Yeah. Right. I mean, it's like we went from horse and carriage to cars, when we went to automated factories, when we've done all of these things.
You're right. Yeah. Anytime there's automation, there's this effect. Well, can anybody think of any examples that would be a good... Something that we could learn from?
Well, actually, okay, so I just, it was like a day or two ago on NPR, I was listening to this, and they were talking about how some people complain about like factory jobs being shipped to China, when in reality, more jobs are lost from automation that's still being done in the U.S. than it is in jobs actually being shipped over to, and I just said China, but from wherever, right? So anywhere. Anywhere, right? And so it's actually more automation than outsourcing, and that's really the same thing.
The thing that like I see different from horse and carriage to like physical mechanical cars is that there are still people involved in there where it's automated.
Well, let's use the Model T where it's not the driving, but it's like the factory
it was the factory
model
that really changed everything though.
Well, true, yeah. So I guess
it was good actually for getting people labor.
Yeah, it was good, but I wonder how
factories ended up being a good thing.
Well, I mean, in the short term, I
think they were. I don't disagree. So maybe it also
brought a lot more people into cities. Like there were, I mean, we can't even begin to comprehend the ripple effects inside of this episode of what had happened. So
You're right.
No, I mean, things are going to change dramatically.
Automation is like the next. So maybe in the history books, it's the automation revolution or something.
So then what's I wonder what like the big kind of like job boom might be that comes with this. Is it supervising these robots? Is it
some people
programming them?
But it could be like it could be like maintenance on the trucks.
Or it could go even deeper in. Just literally, we need more engineers and scientists and stuff that are working on these things, and more computer.
But we also need lower class jobs and stuff. Yeah. Not everybody can go to school to be a programmer.
Right. And this is something that, as a society, we haven't figured out because the people who lost manufacturing jobs, a lot are just still unemployed.
Yes.
and this is something that we are literally in the middle of this problem, coming up onto the next wave of this problem, and we have
it's just gonna
not.
It's wave after wave after wave.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
We're replacing.
And the problem now is that the waves are coming quicker, right? Because you could go back to Industrial Revolution,
right.
those types of things. And not that it wasn't hard. Yes, of course, there was this wave, this ripple effect, blah, blah, blah. But now the technology goes faster. I mean, I'm not sure there was another time when we weren't over a wave when we already saw the next one coming.
Yeah.
It's a storm.
Yes.
And it's crazy to kind of think of the fact that, like, going back to, like, you know, technology and disruption. I mean, Uber was the disruptor of, kind of set the bar for what disruption in an industry was, and they're about to do it again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You have a really nice blue screen over there.
Ooh.
And I think that's a desktop.
Oh, it's fine. Oh, that's the best desktop ever. We got to
Oh my God, is that a Jurassic Park reference?
Yes.
Oh, that's deep.
Yeah, so my desktop
Please, gosh, dang it!
So my desktop, which we have on the other side, we'll bring down the curtain here a little bit.
I'm sorry, yeah.
So I have a rotating image on one of my computers here in the studio, and it's true that I found a 1-to-1 ratio of a DOS interface of you didn't say the magic word, which was in the computers.
Didn't say
in
the
fact,
magic
if you,
word.
I can't see the monitor from my angle, but you guys obviously can. If you look up above the access main security grid, access main program, that's all exactly how it is in the movie.
Oh my gosh.
Nice.
You need to have like the last drag of a cigarette in your mouth to be able to even look
Access
at
main program, access main security grid.
Yeah.
Please, I hate this hacker crap.
We've completely derailed.
It's a great wallpaper, isn't it?
It is.
I mean, it's so good. It's so correct that Jake literally thought it was a warning message showing up.
Screened.
Oh,
and I
that's
was
funny.
like, wait, you have a Mac.
Anyway, we got to get out of here, though. We got to get moving.
So anyways, disruption. Like, back to Uber, though. I mean, they disrupted the cab industry, right? And people were like, what is going to happen here? And now they're trying to do the same thing with shipping.
Uber just doesn't give a... No, actually, I mean, they're doing it. Uber's always an interesting company because
Uber's
sometimes they're jerks and sometimes they're leading the way. It's all over the place with Uber. Definitely a company to follow, in my opinion.
So, Dave, what do you think? How many years until...
I think we're under 10.
50% of our...
I think we're under
automated.
10 for autonomous trucks, easy.
For real?
For all of them, or part of the
50.
market? Or...
I think for majority. I think
majority?
within a decade.
10 years?
I think majority in America is within 10 years. I mean, guys...
My friend thought that there would be a riots in the streets before that happened.
Well, I mean, okay, so I'm not
There
counting...
could be.
I'm not counting...
I know.
I'm not counting the human element. I'm just saying from the technology arc where how quickly things are curving up right now.
Yeah.
And as far as the integration into... not society as in would people like it or not, but the integration into our working, living world, I think we're easily inside a decade for those variables. I mean,
who's able to make it to scale though? Are we going to rely on auto? And
Auto's
everything?
on it, and there's other companies too. Auto's making trucks.
So literally, it's companies that don't even actually deal with shipping currently, and they're just like, we're programmers and we're smarter than you.
Yeah, they come in with because I mean,
and they have
trucks are trucks.
Tech.
And another thing about these trucks is they're kind of like they're just big rectangles, and you know they have a lot of space for these sensors. If you look at an auto truck, I wish I could have a picture right now. Sure. It almost looks a little bit like a cruise liner or something because there's little sensors sticking out like on its edges that can see in front and behind. Do they still
look like a truck? Because
it looks a lot like a truck. Now here's one. Okay,
couldn't you just make it like a wedge for way better aerodynamics?
So let's talk about this. We really got to get out of here. We're starting to go over a little bit, but this is something to think about. When they're truly autonomous, we don't really have cabs anymore up front, do we? Mm-hmm. They could look more like buses, but then who's to? I always start thinking about like the crime element. Like
how do you
hijack an autonomous semi truck?
Would be able to figure that one out.
What's that?
Malcolm Reynolds.
Yes, he would.
He'd like land Serenity on top, and
so like the thing is it gets tricky, and I enjoyed that episode actually too. I enjoyed most of the episodes of that season of that one and only season. But it gets tricky now. Now maybe they don't need windows. They don't really have windows yet, but will they even look like trucks? We could have things like you could easily, instead of sending your self-driving car to the grocery store, You can order just that. Oh, you didn't have milk. Oh, you forgot you ran out of milk. You order it on your iPad or your Android or whatever. It doesn't matter. You order it. The store has 30 of these self-driving pods.
No, at that point they just send you a drone.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Maybe a driving drone is really, flying drone. Okay, fine.
Isn't Domino's
God.
delivering? Wait, that's a different episode.
Different episode. So anyway, I am maybe going off a little bit, but like that's a whole other thing. Is now how do the trucks change when they're truly autonomous? Right now, they're still referencing a traditional truck form,
Yeah.
and many of these autonomous trucks still can have drivers in them, and I think that's going to be the plan for a while. But I think about things like I have a niece who's 6 years old and a niece who's 4. And I can't help but wonder what kind of driver's license they're going to get in 10 years or more.
None.
Why do they need a
Yeah.
driver's license?
So, I think they're going to be right on that edge where they may not need one. I think we'll probably still have driver's license in 10 years and it'll be some kind of different thing,
Yeah.
But stuff to think about.
Yep.
Guys, this was a fun episode. We're back in action here. I'm really excited about the rest of this season. We're going to be doing season 8. It's going to take us all the way into early December, where we will take a brief holiday break, and we'll come back with season 9. And thank you so much for being here, guys. We're starting a week or two later than we thought because of this move with this studio. I'm so excited to be
Yeah, but
here.
I think it's for the better.
I think
it is, and I can't wait. A couple weeks, it might be a full rotation, but hopefully a couple weeks from now, we're going to be up and running and all of the stuff. I mean, it's kind of, I wish I could take a picture right now. Maybe I will, but we have one side of the studio still has studs and plastic. The other side is drywall, and we are literally podcasting by the light of a work light right now.
You see the vision. And it looks good.
It's going to be cool.
It
We're
will
going to
be.
have a lot of opportunity here.
So
It's going to be a heck of a space.
I don't know if you're going to cover it, but
What's up?
I'm just like, I can't help but think that, and because this new format, there's so many unknowns in this. And so I feel like
You're going to
listeners,
audience? Yep. That's where I was going, but please go for
excellent. No, we have this opportunity now to actually get some sweet, we can have really good discussions. So
with
David,
those good
how
discussions.
can they contact us?
You're right. And Jake, all of us have talked about this, but we're really excited since we're going to be a little bit, not longer format, but because we can be longer format on a single topic, that enables people to have, we have no problem. If someone's listening to this show right now and they have something to add and they want to tweet it to us at Technophiles Pod or email it to us,
I don't want to hear it.
or email it to us at technophilespodcast@gmail.com. They can do that, and even if next week we're going to be talking about essentially open source data and knowledge and stuff, right, Jay?
Yeah.
But if someone has something to say that they hear about this right now and they want to email us Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, we will happily return to it very quickly and talk about it or add it to. We have comments on our website now. If you go to technophilespodcast.com and go to this episode, which is episode 304, you can listen to it, and we'll have a comment section there. I don't know. We don't really have a voicemail or anything like that, but I don't think we need that yet.
Do people use voicemail anymore?
So you'd be surprised how many podcasts still have a number for people to call in. Now, if someone wants to record an audio file and email it to us.
Everyone is just jealous of how Radiolab does their credits.
Is that what it is?
They phone it in. All the people phone it in.
I love your show.
No. They have people read
They
the
read
credits.
their credits.
And it's on the phone.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
It's
so
really
you get
great.
a new person every single week.
That's kind of cool.
There's Yo, Is This Racist? That actually has their questions about if something is racist, they phone them in.
Yeah?
Yeah, so they have the audio of the person asking if
Fascinating.
something is racist.
That's
Wow,
crazy.
You can't call Technophiles.
No.
We have some live shows coming up in a couple months, but we're still looking for some of our guests for those shows. If people are listening right now and they know someone who's in the Midwest who maybe could be an interesting person for us to talk with, that would be really cool. People can email us again at technophilespodcast@gmail.com. Or just for the fun of it, you can tweet us at technophilespod, as I said already, but I'm just repeating it a few times.
Yeah.
Be sure to check out our Patreon page, which you can also find links to from our website. And let's go down the line here. We'll start with Vee Laabs. If people want to get in touch with you about digestible batteries a little bit, they can add their 2 cents on Twitter if they tweet you at
Bear_Annika.
Fantastic. And Krista-Lee, let's see, if people want to talk to you about robotic octopi,
Octobot.
the Octobot,
Yeah,
robotic
Octobot.
octopi. So I think technically
Softbot.
octopi, octopus, and octopuses is all acceptable,
valid.
but I think I prefer octopi.
I like Octopi.
If they want to tweet you, they can find you on Twitter at
@GamerAnthro.
Marvelous. And Jake, if people want to add, if anybody has any thoughts about, I'll let you set up your episode, your topic for next week one more time. Maybe people can tweet you their thoughts and we can have it for the episode.
If you want to talk about open source collaborative data, patents, going out the window, you can tweet me at Critical Owl.
Marvelous. All right, guys, that's it. Can't wait to see you next week. And I think that is actually it. Let's get out of here. People can always find me on Twitter. My name's David Geisler. You can find me on Twitter at RaptorPaint. Have a great week.
Good night.